No, I
I thought that was Nealon sitting on
That's wrong.
A little more self-respect than that.
All right, I'm calling the meeting of the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee of December 18th to order. You want me to start again? I can.
Sorry, Rob.
I wouldn't have remembered the recorder today, so.
Okay, sorry.
I'm calling the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee of December 18th to order. Do we have, Tom, are you an alternate?
Yeah.
All right, so we have one guy on that side.
I'll move to seat Trevor in place of Ron Ganty.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to seat Trevor for Ron Gantick. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
The right habit.
I'll move to seat Tom Smith in place of Mike McCoo.
Second. I write, but I don't do it.
We have Tom Smith to replace Mike McCoo. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, that handles that. And I can't find my sheet of paper that I keep track of who's here on. That's all right. Nope. Anyways. Moving on to number 3. Is there anybody here present to speak? Have anything to add tonight? Anything of importance? Hearing nothing. I'm going to look for my sheet of paper here for a second before we move on.
Those paper Dunkin' cups just don't hold the heat.
They do
They
not.
don't.
They're
They.
horrible.
Terrible.
I got
They're good if you want to drink it fast.
which I do, but
That's an important thing too.
I get about that seed. They got you coming around.
Yeah.
Somebody said something.
Alex is here, Tyler is here, Trevor is here, Tom is here, Tom is here. You guys really go for a wide,
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
I have to be careful when I initial, the card.
Okay, minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So,
Tom moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Hear a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Abstentions? Alex abstains. Okay, next is, I have me at the beginning instead of at the end today, because I had a little insomnia last night at 3 a.m. because I was thinking about this committee and I don't think I should be doing that. At the end of the last meeting, I had some serious doubts that we were getting any place, so that I wanted to talk to each of you separately so that I could hear instead of hear you what you're saying rather than preparing to respond. I could absorb some of that and to see if there was a way forward. And I've heard from some of you that you also were kind of discouraged that there may be a way forward. I found, I'm not going to talk about what each of you told to me because I told you I wouldn't. So, but if you feel a need to share what we talked about, feel free to. think I was listening to you more than I was talking to you. And if I talked more than listened, I apologize for that. That wasn't my intent. But what I actually heard was that we all want to get to the same place eventually. I think almost to a person, I heard that we wanted one department at the end. It's how we get there that's the question. The other thing that I heard was that there's a great deal of distrust between the two departments in operations. I don't know what we can do about that. I think the only thing we can do is start by bringing the departments closer together by doing things jointly first and eventually zip it. It's like zipping up a coat. I think I told a number of people this. If you decide that you want your coat zipped up, you don't start your zipper at the top and then come down, making sure the teeth line up. You start at the bottom, do the things that need to be, some of the operational things at the bottom, and then as those progress, then hopefully we could get to a place where we could combine into one department. The last thing I thought was that I've talked to a number of chiefs from outside departments, outside this town, and every one of them said that it took a great deal of pressure from the town itself to bring their departments together, that their departments weren't going to do it on their own. I was hoping that we'd be the exception to the rule. I now don't think that's true. I think that the town has got to have some input on what they want, where they want it to go. So that's what I have from my minute. And if I mischaracterized anything dramatically, I'm asking you to let me know.
Mr. Distrust, that was the word that you heard, or is that?
That was not the word I heard, that's the feeling I felt. You know, I heard that there's a training isn't the same, that finances aren't the same, that equipment uses isn't the same.
Maybe different philosophy. I don't, distrust sounds.
I believe that it might be distrust. I believe that both departments, and it was exactly the same feeling from both sides, don't get me wrong, that there's something that they're not trusting in the other department to come along and to form a tight bond at the top.
Oh, okay.
I came in with different expectations on that, and I was kind of surprised to see that everybody's on the same page and problems are on the same problems are on both sides of the state.
And just in response to what you said, just to quickly point out that Willington actually has done pretty well in implementing certain things when you compare us to other towns. When we've switched frequencies, operational frequencies, we've done that together, joint responses. We have actually, just from my view, we've done some pretty good things without being forced to do in the past. Some really proactive things. That's all, just in response to what.
Sure.
What
I don't think.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
What I'm saying is I wouldn't be here if I didn't think there was a way forward now. At the end of the last meeting, I wasn't sure that there was. The one phrase I heard from one of the people I talked to was their hope was someday that there'd be one department, one chief, not us and them, but us. And I thought that was a good goal. I just don't know, I'm just not sure how to get there. I'm hoping for some input. And the one thing that I suggest that we start with, actually I've got that as item 7. Do you mind if we switch items 7 and 6?
No, we gotta do both, so.
We gotta do both. So, and here's Stuart, so, and I wanted Stuart here for number 6 anyways. So, one of the strategies I was thinking was you have to start with something. And I'd like to see a start with administrative and operations orders. And making sure that it's the same, both departments are following the same administrative and operations orders. To include things like making sure that when you assign somebody a task, that they are qualified and authorized to do that task. So that it may be that one of the topics we discussed was the contract. We may have to write into the contract, you will drill together once a month. You know, so that when it comes to equipment that one department has and the other department shows up, they know how to use that equipment. I want to make sure that your department has people that show up, and when they show up to a call, if they show up to a certain number of calls, they get the tax break. Isn't that how that works?
Mhm.
So, but if they're showing up to calls where they're not qualified to do the job at that call, then it's, the town's kind of paying for something that they're not getting. I want qualified people to show up. I want them to be qualified for that call. I understand there's a huge array of skills and duties, and even somebody with no training at all is useful to you guys somehow. They can run a scrub brush and wash a truck.
Well, that's what I was just gonna
But-
say, because you can't specifically
Right.
say that everybody has to be trained for every call.
No, that's not
Or
what
stay home.
that's not what I'm saying at
You
all.
know,
I'm
'cause-
saying, if you're a firefighter 9 or whatever the top level is these days, and you go rushing into buildings, and you go rushing into buildings, but you have no medical training, when you show up to the heart attack, we're not, you know.
But the same
there's
respect,
disconnect.
Peter, is if there's guys rushing into the building because they're trained to do so.
Right,
We also have guys that can't rush into a building, but they will pull hose and they will
Right.
clean up and
Right,
they
right,
will
right.
run SCBA, so
Right.
they get credit just as well
yeah,
as the
yeah,
others.
yeah. But
They may
I-
have no qualification.
No, but they had a qualification to do what they did at the job. I'm thinking of a job that they show up to, and, for instance, medical calls, they don't have a license to drive the ambulance. They you know, don't know how to pull the stretcher out of the ambulance. They don't know how to find the first aid kit, because I never know. Believe me, I showed up to first EMS calls,
Mhm.
and I'm the first one to tell you I'm freaking useless there, because I have no idea where anything in the ambulance is. All right, I was the third man in, and I don't know how many EMS calls. And
Before you get too into the weeds, especially if we're talking
Right.
about in regards to the tax abatement, there's an ordinance around that. And so if you start limiting what is or isn't qualified for that, you would have to
change the ordinance.
change the
Right.
ordinance, and you want to be
I-
careful about making it really specific to things, so it's not as easy as writing into a negotiated contract with the two departments. It's a
Right.
much bigger picture.
Yeah, and just on the same topic, like I said, I mean, going to a medical call, I mean, we always welcome guys who are not EMTs and stuff
Right.
like that to help on the scene, to move vehicles or to traffic or whatever.
But I want them to be able to do that, you know, to know, because their stretcher, I know is, I looked in their ambulance, and one will pull out, just hit the button. They don't have the old stretcher where you blow out your back every time you lift up a bariatric patient.
I don't know.
I've seen.
I still think we're putting the cart before the horse. I agree we need to be doing training together. Something that I preached, I know our guys all the time. we need to have what direction we're gonna go in before we can start doing stuff like that. We need to narrow down what direction we're gonna go in. And if we can't come to an agreement as to what that direction is going to be, a lot of this is wasting our times. I don't wanna put it bluntly, but
Right.
if we can't get on the same page as to where we're going overall, I think we're putting a lot of,
You know, that was my roadmap scenario at the beginning. If you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to get there. But
What you're talking about,
my-
what you're talking about, come if we can decide on one of those big
right.
things that.
we need to figure out where we're going.
Yeah, we need.
All right, well then let's
I mean,
move
I-
to item 6, which is, what are the big things we're moving towards? And is there any of them that can be?
Do we have the list?
I do. All I have to do is find it.
It'd be helpful to whittle away the list, you know,
Yeah.
let's cross some things out and narrow it down.
There's the list.
Does everybody have this, or do you want me to make a copy of it?
It's right there.
It's not gonna stand up. Take it off, I can stick it on the wall, but there's the list.
All right. Yeah, I think we may need to stick that to the wall
No.
Or
because,
maybe copies.
No, hold, please.
Easier.
Do you want me to just
Do you
make
have
copies?
another?
Yeah, make copies of it, perhaps. Should be easy enough to find copies.
I thought you guys were bringing a whiteboard. I stopped bringing something to put it on because you were gonna do a whiteboard.
yeah. What happened to that letter?
Your wish to make things better and address small things is great, and I think that's what we all like to do, it's just that we need to get.
Yeah, I'd just like to see the efficiency.
And we
part.
do go through phases, and we'll do,
Right, I want
2 weeks a
something
month.
that'll stick.
so do
you
we.
know? Yeah,
But-
and that's why I was gonna start with the administrative and operations thing. And if you write that into your administrative and operations, that you have to do training once a month of some kind together, then you'd be outside your
I still think we're
administrative
putting
and
the cart
operations
before the
hours.
horse.
And it has to, you know, if you want it to stick, it's gotta be a structural, it's gotta be something with some,
Keith to it.
yeah. Otherwise, because we do train and not, and, you know.
It's been a long while since we have.
Do that.
And I'm a true believer that, and that's because I have a lot of misplaced faith probably, that when you do code training, that knocks down some of the distrust. You get, when you know people, you know what you can trust them to do and where they stand and that kind of thing, so.
Thank you.
I think that's an important step towards that. I think that trust barrier may be, everybody get one? That trust barrier may be as important as as the volunteer paid barrier. And I had a letter from, oh, here it is, I found it. Every morning I gotta get one. Got this is, I was gonna read this under correspondence, but it applies here, and it's from Mike McCoo. I don't know if everybody got it or I just myself. He goes, Mr. Chairman, I've been clear in meetings and want to continue to assert that I'm very supportive of us finding solutions that are embraceable by fire department members and are defendable to the townspeople. I'm suggesting that we narrow the options, solutions. We need to have reasons why or why not. A huge concern of taxpayers and town officials. For the entire 38 years I have been involved with the 2 fire departments has been finances, both cost savings potential and planning efficiencies. Another has from time to time and again, and is again now, with the purchase of 25 old farms by the Willington Hill Fire Department, where our services should be located. He'd like, he writes forever, he's wordy, so I'm gonna cut it down. He's suggesting that in section 7, we consider an in-depth financial review as one strategy. This will require planning another meeting probably dedicated to that purpose. We would need Donna there with access to details about transactions, etc., while a private corporation entire use of public funds should be reviewed. This would include areas previously glossed over, such as what vehicles are paid for, is the union paying its fair share, blah, 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 on and on.
What?
You want to read it?
No, absolutely not.
All right.
Does the union pay its fair share? I don't know what the hell that means.
I have no idea either, and he's not here to explain. So,
How convenient.
now,
So 8 we already scratched off.
I say 8 was already scratched off, right?
I believe so, yes.
Can we all agree to scratch 1 off?
I think we can.
Yep.
I'll move that we scratch off 1.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
What?
I'm gonna make a motion to scratch off 2.
Hang on just a minute.
Really?
What? I was waiting to see if you had a response to that. Any abstentions? Hearing none, that, we're scratching off 1.
Make a motion to scratch off 2.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. 2 is to separate the fire department and EMS.
I think we're just doing that, you're just causing another division.
You'd have 3 organizations.
You'd have 3
fighting for
organizations, and I don't think
resources,
that's-
not just 2.
Or you would always have 2 organizations. And I don't think that's productive.
Right, we're talking about 2 different things, besides, like, number 4 is separating paid and volunteers, so.
Yeah, that was my next one.
Yeah, they're not separating
I don't,
the fire department and EMS to make 3 stations, that's,
So you, just so,
Well, they're talking about number 2.
that would be like an ambulance corps, well, no? Yes? Is that what that is? Separate fire department? Yeah, that would be like, let's just say an ambulance corps, or whatever, that's what that is.
that was my interpretation. Or they're still within the fire department, but a completely separate role within the
Yeah,
department.
unable to take a fire truck.
Correct. And
That's,
that-
that's what we're talking,
correct.
just so we're all. I mean, if we don't agree on anything, you may end up with 1, but I'm saying, I'm going back a little. I'm just saying that that's not what we're working towards, the status quo, as a philosophy. If we don't decide on anything, we may still end up here, but that's not what we want to see. That's not what I want.
So,
All right, so
in my feeling that we weren't getting anywhere last time, I talked to a friend of mine. I said, they've been going at this since 1985, and this is where we are. If we end up at number 1, I'm batting for average. So I don't want to go there. I want to at least get on base.
Well, we've been doing this since 1955, but
Yeah, well, that's what I was corrected as when I talked to one of the members. So, welcome, Ron.
thank you. Sorry, late. I mean, I don't know how much you're gonna, before we proceed, set these in stone or revisit these, Peter, but being, the fact that we only have 2 members here,
Mm-hmm.
voting on this stuff doesn't seem like appropriate, if it's gonna be something that is gonna not be looked at again.
You know what I'm gonna do on this? If I get one no vote, I'm leaving it in. How's that?
That doesn't work if you're voting on it. It's not,
You can't vote and then decide it wasn't enough of a outcome for you. It's either, I mean, if you put it to a vote.
What if we have a gentleman, because, no, I'm sorry.
Well, again, if.
What if we go through, get a sense of where we're at? How's that? What if we get a sense, not anything in stone, but just get a sense of, or would you rather wait till you get your other?
I mean, just like I said, in the interest of getting everybody's opinion and not having to revisit it, it's not, well, we got 2 members here as opposed to 5, so. It just doesn't seem right to be voting on stuff. Does it?
so do you wanna go
How
to,
about you do a poll from each department, so he'll consider what they think of each of the items, and one can say what they think of each of the items, and maybe if we agree on one,
That would be a good place to start.
Good idea.
Why don't we do that? So I'm going to move as an agenda item that we,
You still have a motion on the
oh, still have a motion on
Oh,
the
there
floor.
wasn't. The second is.
All right, I'm gonna move that we table that motion on the floor. How's that?
I'll draw it.
It's withdrawn. Even easier. Thank you, Alex. Anything that makes my life easier. I'm gonna put on the agenda for, so let's get one thing out of the way first. We have a meeting scheduled for next week, December 25th. I'm suggesting that we cancel it. Unless there's a huge outcry that we have to hold it.
You'll be the only one here.
I'll be here.
Yeah. You're probably working anyways, aren't you?
No, not actually.
Oh, you got a Christmas off.
I still want to see why we can't talk about, like, we know, like, what we like.
So
What do we
I
like,
wanna
what do we
have-
like here? What can we agree on? Can we agree on, what?
I want to have a frank discussion, and I'm going to put this out there. We've heard from a lot of members that say, if you consolidate, we're leaving.
As is.
But what does that mean?
That means they're looking to us to put together a plan that will work.
Right.
But we don't know what that is to them. How do we
We have to
come up with a plan
suggestions. You know,
if we don't know what they're looking for?
We have to come up with a plan that says, okay, this will be the way we do it, A, B, and C, this is how we elect, this is how we do chief, this is, you know, how everything's gonna work.
You guys don't
ABC.
have a meeting
And this-
before the next meeting,
I
right?
think all I heard in the room,
No.
right, so was, if you consolidate, I'm leaving. What we didn't hear is what you're suggesting is, but we would consider it if there were a
Correct.
plan that we
And
agreed
that's-
on. That's not what was stated by your members, that may be how they're feeling, and maybe at your individual meeting, they're saying that to you. I think it's important to share some of that with the entire group, because
Well, I think I
that
have, in the past, I've suggested things like separating the ambulance or things like that, that my department would be willing to work with. And I've said that over and over and over again. And it's, if we can come up with a blueprint to take back to the memberships and say, hey, what do you guys think of this blueprint? This is how it'll unfold. And hand it to them, say yes, no, this is good, this is bad, then that's the way we could come up with something.
All right.
Let me give you my, I'm gonna give you my opinion, what I think might be workable, what I've heard, from what I've heard, for Willington Hill. And you can jump in and correct it. Number 4, and number 7. Like it or not. I'm here now to get something that's, to make it better and incorporate some of the ideas and things that we all want to see, but something that's going to go through and be voted on positively. And I don't even know what these are. It depends on how it's done. I think that's what he's talking about.
So I
think
have
the
a,
full consolidation, to put it just
Yep.
honestly, is not going to fly just like, let's consolidate to one unit and move forward. It's just, I don't see that passing Willington Hill. I'm just being, you know.
For-
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I'd really, really like to have some type of argument or point made why that's not only an option, but an optimal solution from a service delivery perspective, and an answer that's not mired down in emotion or opinion or hearsay. I'm trying to grasp what is the problem with doing that? Aside of, oh, I'm going to quit. Okay, that's a great reason. I've heard nothing that, to me personally, makes any logical sense to me why that would not be
In all due-
short-term,
in all due
long-term, the
respect, Tyler,
optimal way
that's
to
your
to
opinion.
deliver
See,
service.
it's just, you got a good opinion, and I respect your opinion, and it's very close to my opinion. But I wanna see something that's gonna, in the end, pass. I don't feel like going through.
But what?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I
There's
understand
no
what you're
sense
saying.
of bringing something to Willington Hill
Yeah,
that I know is gonna be voted down.
So
But I don't-
So I wanna get
Oh,
something.
Yep.
I wanna get something rather than nothing.
and I want to get to something that doesn't compromise or
Sure.
further reduce the levels of public safety that you enjoy today, because I think that's really, really,
That's all.
that's improper.
That's
But
what
you
we all
say
want.
that, but you say that, and then you mock the volunteers saying that they're gonna leave and say, oh, boo-hoo.
I didn't mock
You
them.
make a joke of it.
What they said was a fact. If we consolidate, we're
But
going
you
to
made,
it's a fact.
you made it like a joke. I mean, that's an important aspect to the services of this town, is the volunteers, the fact that they would leave because they're not happy with joining just as is. You're saying that's the only thing, so what?
I didn't say it was the only thing. I said, I'm trying to.
That's what you-
I said, I would like to hear a compelling argument, not based in emotion, or a baseless argument that says, the only reason that I've heard so far, the way we don't want to, why some of the members of Willington Hill don't want to consolidate, because they're going to quit. I haven't, and believe me, please, somebody here
people-
tell me, if somebody actually said, listen, this is why we shouldn't consolidate, and here's some factual reasons why I think this is bad. I'm just gonna quit. And if you want to say I'm mocking people, that's what they said. They said in a public meeting numerous times.
And that's
I'm not
it.
mocking anybody.
We've gone over it though, Tyler. I mean, most of the things that I've said that people will quit for is because other people are doing the job that they'd be doing and getting paid for it. Again, we've gone through all this stuff, but nothing's being done about it. No suggestions are coming from anybody about it, other than what I suggested, separating the paid people and the volunteers. And
Which
like
I
I said,
said-
we discussed in detail about why these volunteers say they'd walk away, because they're not gonna, the emotion, they're not gonna feel needed, the jobs are gonna be done when somebody's getting paid to do it, we're not gonna do it, there's a whole list of things we've gone over. And so it's a huge, huge thing that, you know, to the services of this town, like you say. You know, and I don't know what to do about it. I mean, you guys, I'm kind of waiting for other suggestions as to what we should do and how we could form this thing, where that would be not a problem, where we retain these volunteers
So
and
that's
the paid people.
from Willington Hill's side. From your side, and I agree, that I don't think separating, I don't think making a separate ambulance unit, I think it's counterproductive not to have fire trucks responding if you have paid people. And we disagree amongst ourselves about that.
Anything
So I think you would veto the whole thing if that was an option, you'd say this. But, so what we have to do is we have to figure out a way to go forward and meld these things together to see a compromise. I mean, it's like what's going on.
I think, can we at least, from a theoretical standpoint, agree that anything that diminishes what we have today from a response perspective, a public safety perspective, probably should not be on the list?
And
Can we start
stop,
there?
Stop 1 second.
I'm sorry, can you
So
repeat
you're
that?
you're not listening though to what he's saying and Willington Hill's saying, that there's a real genuine feeling that the volunteerism will be diminished if it's done. That's what the other side from you is saying, is that they feel strongly that emergency services will be hampered and diminished if you consolidate totally. Whether you think it's right or wrong, or I think it's right or wrong, that's a genuine thought.
Then-
And you can't discount people's feelings come into it, you can't, and.
So we're saying the same thing, Tyler, that we don't want to diminish the response to for the town and the taxpayers. It just, again, we're saying it from different angles.
It's a
Tyler,
different.
can you repeat the sentence you said
From
before,
a-
because I didn't absorb it?
From looking at this list, can we at least agree or concede, or whatever the word boundaries you want to use?
That we don't affect
That-
services.
That anything that diminishes the services that we have today should not be on this list. Now,
Yes.
again, this could
I
be,
agree with that.
you know, we talked about, you know, this, we just, well,
Look at what the
I know we're not supposed
services
to,
are.
we're voting on this, we talked about number 2, that was off. Number 8, which was a regionalization, that's just too far-fetched.
I thought we dropped that last.
Yeah, that
We
was
did.
already.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
gone.
already,
Yeah.
that's already gone.
The number 4. Can we mutually agree that not, whether you like them or not isn't the point. Whether you think they're the boogeyman isn't the point. Can we at least mutually agree at the table that having the 2 people that the town is paying for to respond to fire, EMS calls and accidents on a 24/7 basis, them not going to all those calls would be a diminishment of service?
Well, it
Is that a,
depends,
I mean,
depends who you ask,
is that a,
you know.
we can't even agree on that?
Yeah, I agree.
That those 2 people not bringing a fire truck to a fire
Yeah,
would
that-
diminish service today?
That's why I say for it, that's why I said for as a, because you have,
Yeah.
to me, that's the compromise that you have. You have,
At this point, I'd take number 3 out.
you'd have paid people
Take it
going,
out.
either, and you'd have the volunteer, everybody would give a little, you may not like it.
No.
But it would be a compromise.
And again, I've said the same thing, Tyler, that I would have a hard time committing to saying, okay, these guys that are there, paid firemen, ambulance guys, don't take a fire truck. But if they were, the description of their position and the fire side is being handled as it is, I mean, you look at the numbers and stuff like that, any significant fire calls, we've talked about this, same thing, I mean, I don't need to go in circles. I agree, we don't want to diminish it, and that's the risky part of separating the ambulance and the fire, and I already said that we could compromise with maybe 1 fire truck in the ambulance for the paid personnel. So they do have a fire truck, but the rest of the town of Willington is run by volunteers. I don't know, again, a suggestion. If you guys have a suggestion that might be somewhat in that neighborhood, then put it out there. I mean, I agree that, like I said, it'd be a tough call to make to say, you know, at this point, the way we're set up now and the paid people that we have and their training and their abilities and stuff to say, leave a fire truck. It'd be a hard thing to say. So again, compromise would be what I just suggested. In the efforts to do what you're saying, not diminish the services to the town by preserving the volunteers, because if you look at the calls, look at all the fire and rescue calls and the numbers and everything else, look at how many people are responding. You guys have volunteers that respond to them, so do we. And like I said,
And I don't think any of our goal, or, trust me, and I've said this at, I think, every meeting, is I want to retain as many volunteers as we possibly can.
yeah, absolutely. We have to. I mean,
We don't have a choice, I
yeah,
can't.
we have to. The town can't
Town
afford
can't
it.
go out and hire 10
Right.
people or however.
It'd be nice if they could, and we could just walk away with it. I mean, and by all means, she's not here now, but if the town wants to commit to a full-time paid staff, then our answer's solved. We'll walk away. Problem solved.
Pete, you want to talk about 5 and 6 at all?
I saw Pike in 5, yes, I do.
I just want to make sure you're still here too.
I'm listening,
I didn't check out during that conversation.
I wanted, no, I didn't check out, I wanted to make sure I was listening instead of just coming up with a response.
Mhm.
I have a bad habit of doing that, and so every now and again I like to listen. We had some negative response to a paid administrator before, and right now, you guys are seeing this as a two-party conflict or discussion. Willington 1 and Willington Hill, and from where I'm sitting, it's a three-party discussion. It's Willington 1, Willington Hill, and the town. And I'm here, I don't represent either one of your departments, I'm representing the town. And I don't think the town can ask you to do something without skin in the game. It's a big ask.
But they have skin in the game with the contract and
Right,
funding.
yeah,
We're paying us to
we're
do
paying.
something, and we have a contract. to do
Right,
it, so there
we're
is skin.
paying, but we're asking you to go above and beyond what you're doing now. We're asking you to work towards something better. Stasis is easy. We could just keep paying you to do the same job forever, and pay them to do the same job forever. And you have no, I mean, we have no say in how that goes if we're not willing to put some skin into the game to change things. And I saw an administrator far differently than you did, Tom. You saw an administrator as a town person who's paid, that comes in and tells you what to do. That's not how I saw the
It's a different
administrator.
title if that's not what it is, you know?
I'd call it a paid administrative assistant then. I think that the town needs somebody that comes in and makes sure that its interests are protected, and that it's somebody that could put some of these ideas together, like operations and administrative orders, to make sure that they met our standards to protect us legally and insurance-wise, etc. Make sure all that stuff is in there, and make sure that we're all operating off the same map. I know you don't like to start there at the bottom, Alex, and that it's not, you don't think it's a real step, but I think if we're all on the same map at least, to start with, maybe we can start moving towards the same goal. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's how I've always felt.
There's probably many interpretations about what a fire administrator, a job description, or what people perceive that it is.
Right.
You know, what I perceive that it is based on what I know and see from my
Right.
peers around us.
Like Coventry, it's
Yeah,
a
where-
full-time,
As an example,
Everybody reports to him.
They're more of a planning, logistics,
right,
financial center for the two fire departments, but that person, whether it was Noel or Jimmy who's there now, that person has absolutely no authority statutorily over an emergency. Those fire departments, you know, as we sit today, continue to operate the way they always have when there's an emergency. He has no skin in the game nor any authority as an emergency. It's exactly what it says, it's an administrator. So, you know, in Coventry's case, you know, that person reports to the town manager. He's strictly in charge of processing budget requests, capital requests, approval of purchase orders for equipment and gear. And that started because they wanted to make sure that the two departments were not duplicating efforts in certain areas, but that they were also getting, you know, NFPA, compliant equipment at the proper intervals. They coordinated, you know, some of the paid staff that are there. They actually, it's a private company that they contract with. But I think they changed that to Coventry employees, town employees. So he supervises.
What was that?
They had Vintech, yeah, which was.
They still do, I just talked to the guy.
I think they're moving, I think they're slowly.
They may be slowly moving away, but they still.
So he, you know, that fire administrator was really the point person for the paid staff that work there, the budgeting for them, the time off, all that happy stuff. So, you know, you have to be kind of careful, because when you look at a fire administrator in different towns, there's probably different models and different job descriptions out there. The ones that you know we're familiar with, the ones that are around here, that's really what they are. They really close the gap between the two volunteer fire agencies in the municipality. And really, not that they ran interference, but they were the conduit between the two, is what it came down to. Now, you could find people in North Coventry and people in South Coventry say it's awful, it doesn't work, and you could find people say it works flawlessly. I get all that. The fact of the matter is, they did it, they've done it for years. Mansfield, they started out the exact same way. But that ended up transitioning into a paid fire chief position. They got to the point where, you know, for whatever reason, that the town council, the mayor, and the town manager decided they wanted to have a paid fire chief due to the lack of consistent response of the volunteers, and they hired more paid staff. So there's different models that are out there. But my personal opinion, when you look at, you know, number 5, which just says a paid administrator, you know, it's a logistics planning, budgeting, and a kumbaya guy. That's really what his role would be. I can't think of another way to.
Well, that's what I saw him as.
He's not strong, he's not gonna walk into the fire department, you can't do that, oh, it's, you know, he's the conduit to the municipality to make sure that.
That everybody's using the same response software.
Yeah, the simple things like that, buying the same gear, is there advantages to bulk purchasing between the two departments, is there not? You have minute or 5 pagers, you have minute or 3 pagers, they kind of bring everything together. That's the theory behind it.
Yeah, and that's why I like that theory.
Yeah, he's not.
I mean,
he's not the fire chief.
I personally like that theory, but that's, for, that's also reflects what I mean by the pay there is the town. That's where our skin comes into this game. And if we have some of that kumbaya moment, maybe we could work towards,
Yeah, I mean.
because that's what Coventry's doing. They're dissolving into one department. I heard sometime next calendar year.
That's correct.
But they weren't getting there any sooner than we were until they had that administrator.
Yeah, and they slowly started shifting that way with the support of the town council. So it can be whatever you want it to be. I mean, you just mentioned before that you have Willington, you only have the town. All these people, these 3 groups have skin in the game. Once we formalized or got into contractual agreements, you know, that took away a little bit of the it made it a little bit more business-like, I guess, in my opinion. Ron, you probably agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, on a paper perspective, the fire departments are really, they serve a bigger role. I'm not minimizing it. We're a vendor to the town. That's really what we are. They're paying us so much money on a contractual agreement every year to provide a service. So it's like having, you know, I use the analogy of having a service contract with Willie Waste, much more minimized, but if the town doesn't like the service that they're getting from one of the vendors, well, then you can opt to go somewhere else. You can go with 1, you can stay with 2, you can do whatever you want. And Tom, you touched on it before, in the end, the town, the municipality, has the ultimate power. If they're so hell-bent on not appreciating the service, not thinking the service is being delivered properly, if you think that there's some type of mismanagement, whatever the case may be, you have the power in that contract to put the brakes on. You say, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about this. Because make no mistake about it, neither organization can function, can cease to exist without the financial obligation of the taxpayers. You can't do it. You may do it for a month, maybe for a couple months. But the town CEO is in charge of public safety from a statutory perspective. You're it. You can decide on who goes where and does what. And there is some, you know, some case law that we ran into in Stafford many years ago where, you know, the first selectman called up to the dispatch center and said, stop dispatching this fire department. The fire chief called up to the dispatch center and said, you will not do that, you will continue to dispatch the fire department. First thing we did was, well, I guess we better consult our legal counsel, and it was determined very, very quickly that the town is the ones that has the purse strings, and they're the ones that call the shots because they're the head of public safety. That's how it happened. But, you know, the administrator, go back to the administrator thing, that's, that's certainly an option. Over the years, we've talked about and tried many different things to try to get together. And I, you know, over the years, I think some of the shortcomings between the departments from a cooperative perspective were personalities on both sides. I think some of the breakdown is because we're busy, have other things to pay attention to, and we just don't get around to doing it. And I, you know, when you get down to it, all the politics between the two departments aside, whether you like Trevor, don't like Alex, or like Tom, or you know, I don't like Jerry, whatever the case may be, we have to come up with a way we have to figure out how to make sure that the fire ground, when I say the fire ground, at an accident, a medical call, or a fire, is safe. And that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're being safe. The right people are there doing the right job. And that we're delivering the service that the town's giving us money to do. So my point being about, you know, going back to the paid administrator, I think that history tells us that we have great difficulty in following through with things long-term that we mutually agree to do. It doesn't happen, for a myriad of reasons. Some good intentions, some not good intentions. And I think, you know, that's where a paid administrator comes in, to kind of keep everybody at a certain level to you know, make sure that these little things don't get missed and they don't fall by the wayside. And they make sure the communication's there. Along with this paid administrator, at least in the Coventry case, you know, when that person, they established that position, what also came along with that was a public safety commission. So every month, the two fire departments, the ambulance representative that they delegated, as well as the emergency management director, the fire marshals, and the police chief, all meet every month. So you have a public safety meeting. That kind of brought everybody a little bit closer as well. So those are the types of things that an administrator could facilitate.
So you can
That we just can't do it on our, we can't do it on our own.
You can do 7, amend the contract to add the things, and then you have somebody making sure it's carried out.
Well,
Either a volunteer in a volunteer position or a paid.
yeah, and
Perhaps.
you're right, Tom, and this is where I'll pick on the town. Over the years, all of us have been through many town administrations here. Everyone wants to do stuff, everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone kind of knows that there's friction there might be a problem, can we do better? Probably. Well, we started training, then we didn't, so we stopped training, and this guy's mad at us.
Or let's do a study.
Let's do 3 studies, and you know, to the tune of, I think we're up to $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 now for studies, that whether you agree with the study or not isn't the point. I'm just making a point that all these studies say to do one thing, and oh my God, I'm not doing that bullshit. No one wants to do it. So, you know, there's culpability on, just because you happen to be sitting in that
Right,
office.
well,
There's culpability on your part as well in
It
this.
is. So to the town point, we're throwing good money after bad, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know that there's a problem, so we say, let's throw money at a study, and then it doesn't go anywhere.
It's-
And then from the town side, the town doesn't pick up and run with it and say,
But the
this
town's
is what
getting
you're
a
gonna
good deal.
do.
They know that. The town knows they're getting a good deal, so throwing good money after bad.
I'm talking about the study. I'm talking about the study. No, not the study. We say, you know, a new administration will come in and say, we know we have a problem, so
Yeah.
let's look at a study, we'll do a study. We don't agree on the study, and then we move along, and we keep
Right.
doing the same thing. And so to the town's side, we don't do anything about it. We just let the money be spent, let nothing come of it,
Ron.
and eventually it happens again. and
But you
we come
have-
full circle, so at some point.
But the town, when I say the town, I don't mean the board of selectmen, I mean the
No,
board of
the
selectmen, the
town.
board of finance.
Correct.
You have a mechanism in place to make things better than what they are perhaps, and those are the contracts. You can put anything you want in those contracts. If basically we don't sign them, we don't have a contract, I guess you do something else. You know, so certainly way around people. So there's 3 entities here. There's the fire departments, which I agree, but you have the town as well, and I think there's culpability on the town's part from, you know, I went to the Board of Finance and Ron went many times too, you know, last 20 years. And you get asked the same damn question. Gee, how come you guys don't work better together? How come they're buying that? How come you're buying that? Why'd your fire truck cost that? Why'd your truck cost that? It's like, oh my God. It's like Groundhog Day. You know, and then if you have a massive change or a change in, you know, during an election year, it's even worse, but, nobody seems to listen.
I think that the Board of Finance, because that's where I'm coming from, is we don't focus on the fire departments like the fire departments do. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out the cheapest, easiest way, which is say, you two guys go work out your problems and come back and let us know how it worked out. And apparently that's not what's happened, because we wouldn't be sitting here tonight if it had.
Well, and there's a
that's why
perception.
and starting with the last administration, when she called people in to write that standard operating procedure, the common standard operating procedure, it just kind of fell off. And I think that's because we don't have somebody whose job it is to maintain that focus. And that's where the administrator would come in my mind.
And facilitate the training on that.
Facilitate it.
To all, you know, all
Right.
that stuff.
Keep, I just, you know, keep in mind, this committee started this time with Willington One sending a letter to Willington Hill, we both agreed to do this. So it wasn't like, we keep referencing the town, and I agree with all what you're saying, but from this time, it was the two departments that decided to get together and talk.
I didn't get the letter,
Well,
because I'm not in either department.
I mean,
So it was a letter from one department to the other that was also
Right.
shared with my
Right,
office. So I,
CC'd.
so
Right.
for the town, I'll speak for the town, we didn't need to say,
so
everybody comes to the table because they
So-
did it on their own and I was
Yeah,
encouraged by
obviously
that.
there's acknowledgement between the two departments that they'd like to see
Mhm.
things made better.
Mhm.
So, just to frame it up a little bit, it wasn't the town coming with a hammer.
No, I agree.
And I said that from the time we sat down, that this was not the town saying you must consolidate. And I know some people didn't like us using the terms consolidate or merger, but that was the language that came from a letter between the two departments. Each
Right.
one of them referenced the same reason. So when I argued with you the first meeting about why we were at the table, to me, there's no discussion. We're at the table because these two departments said we want to talk about this topic, not efficiencies, but merger and consolidation in a letter of their drafting. So.
Just as
Let me
a,
step in because
can you forward the letter to me? Because I had never seen the letter.
let me step in, because the letter was produced because the pressure that Tyler talked about, that over a year, it's at 20 years or whatever, of us going in with requests, and then we get it handed back, well, if it was one department from the Board of Finance or from the Board of Selectmen, whoever it may be. And the same thing happened this time. You know, we come in with these two building proposals, and it gets thrown back that, oh, well, if it was one department, you know, let's talk about this. Well, if it was one department, you know, we wouldn't have these issues. So then
I'll agree with you on that at least, Tom.
we started to get together.
The town uses it as a crutch when it's convenient.
Yeah,
No doubt
yeah,
about it.
and so that's where we put this together. That's where the letter came from.
I mean, wherever it came from.
It didn't come out of the blue to say, oh, well.
My
we're
desk,
getting-
and was pleased to hear it. It certainly was not a letter addressed to the Board of Selectmen. It was a letter addressed from one department to the other, and from
Right,
that
as a
department back to
result
that
of what
department.
Tyler has been
That's
saying,
correct.
that year after year after year,
Right.
we're getting the same, well, if they said this, and they said that, and they said
Right.
this. So year after year, so that's why we're sitting here, because again, we'd like to see that stopped, and we'd like to see a better procedure. As far as the paid administrator, just I hate to be the devil's advocate again on some of these things, but two things you gotta think of. If we are gonna put together a plan that the Willington Hill Department is comfortable with, I can tell you that another level of red tape and another level of somebody, you know, an administrator, is not gonna be popular with the department. I can tell you that right now. And secondly, I don't think it's necessary with a town this size. I mean, look at, like Tyler talked about, I mean, these other departments have these paid administrators, but what do they cost? You know, what are their salaries? I mean, I don't think it's necessary for this town and the fire department this size and the population of Willington. I think a paid administrator is sitting right here, basically, and like you said, with the, you know, the contracts that we can tweak and add things if we need to run a little bit better.
The only difference with that, Tom, is that.
There's
did
zero,
you-
there
did
could
you
be,
point at Eric?
yes, there could be
Yeah.
zero continuity between
Well,
my office.
You
and
frankly don't have any
administrator.
expertise in
Absolutely
emergency
not.
services.
Well,
So,
No.
the reason I'm
I can
saying
add it
is
to
because
my
I think that
Westler
if there was
doc.
some tweaks in the contract, we don't need another person that we have to pay. And we certainly, you know, I don't think we can afford to do that in this town. So Again, if we can, and we got room and money for
I
another,
think the word came,
Paid person?
administrator, finally, the light bulb went off. You almost need a paid facilitator.
Exactly.
That's what you need. And that's my opinion. Not
Yes.
an administrator,
Somebody say, hey,
you're not gonna do
You
that.
guys haven't drilled,
You're a paid facilitator.
you
That-
guys
that's what
haven't
it
drilled.
is.
We
Yeah.
need to get together.
Yeah.
The person that sets up
Yeah.
the dates, that, okay, this, and
We're all doing bloodborne pathogens, these are the 2 dates.
But it needs to
Again,
be
you're-
someone with knowledge
Absolutely.
and experience, and I think
well, again, you keep
out
going
of,
back
out of this office, not guaranteed to get that, you might. I select
You
you
might
might be
have,
very
that's
well.
correct.
one way to
If
do it.
it's me, I might have to go
would
out
be
and.
amend the contracts to put all the stuff in that you think
Yes.
needs to be addressed
Yep.
with someone writing, heard on the contract, all the facilitator, not necessarily paid. I don't know.
Yeah, and the contracts, when I mentioned the contract, it's saying that the town has the ultimate authority, because they can say, we want this, and that's the way it is. It's a negotiation, Tom. You know, we haven't renegotiated those contracts, they just kind of renew in perpetuity, but it's a negotiation. That's how I look at it. I mean, if there's something in there that I think Alex or Ron felt was egregious to Willington for whatever reason, like, whoa, put the brakes on. You don't get to dictate to what's in the contract, we have to negotiate.
Right, every contract.
We're a separate
You have
entity.
to agree to it.
Yeah, and if you can't agree, there are arbitration, all kinds of things you can do. But, again, I go back to what I mentioned before, I guess I look at it as a facilitator. That's what, because history has shown us, for whatever reason, both sides, including the town, are guilty of just not being cohesive enough to produce a product that's best for everyone. They just facilitate. There's no heavy hand, they're not gonna, tell you what to do and how to run a call. That's not the point.
See, another side of it though is, I mean, like Alex talked about, what is the end goal? I mean, is one fire department need a facilitator? Is that what it should, one fire department, the town of Willington, need a facilitator?
Yeah,
Or
we don't
the
have to
fire
think of
chief
the
did.
facilitator as a full-time forever job. When I envision a facilitator or an administrative assistant or whatever, I see it as a part-time job that's durational. So in 5 years, they can tell you whether they've set up a program that can run forever, and they may work 2 days a week or 1 day a week. That's it. I'm not looking for a 40-hour, and last time I brought that up, I was told there's nobody out there that's willing to do that job. So I said,
Not for free.
no, not for free.
Right.
Not for free, and that's why it says paid right there on the thing. And I went out and I asked, I said, I asked some people I know that were in the fire service, not from either department, are there people out there? Are there retired previously paid professional, let me use the word
Retired
professional
career.
rather than,
Career.
I'm not even gonna use career, I'm gonna use professional. That means anybody. Are there people that were former firefighters that could do this job, that are retired and could do this part-time for a duration? They're not looking for another career.
Tom, the
You know,
answer,
there's lots of people out
the
there.
answer could be that person, and we're speaking strictly, I'm not advocating this, that person who's the facilitator to basically assist us in keeping our house in order could be there forever. And the two departments could stay exactly the way they are, because these could be working just fine.
Well,
There
again,
doesn't have to be a goal.
well, that's what I said,
There's got to be a goal.
we gotta decide as the goal of this committee. If that's the goal we're gonna go to, then let's write it
So
out. We can propose it to whoever.
Can we go around the room and poll everybody and say, give us the ones that you think are workable, or what are your choices? Can we just go around and just, it's a snapshot, it's not I could change my mind if I hear more on something, or Tom might change his mind.
Well, and again, keep in mind that we only have two guys here, so that, it's
Right.
not, it's
We're
something
just-
that
we're
we
just
scratch
saying
out permanently.
It's
It's
just
just a
a poll.
personal,
Yeah.
it's just a personal
Yeah.
preference,
Just
individual.
It is, but at the
Not a-
same time, we
not
can't
a-
continue to wait meetings till everyone's here, because I think on both sides, there's gonna be meetings where everyone's here. So we have to get a sense.
At least, yeah, well, I think at least more than two of us, or one with an alternate, no offense.
All right.
He's a full member while he's sitting here.
An alternate, yeah.
All right, let's start at that end, because I haven't heard from Ron all night. And I want him to open his mouth up and say something, anything.
Just a point on that paid administrator and a duration. if we stay 2 departments, that's consistency. We don't have consistency from the Board of Finance, nor do we have it from the Board of Selectmen, because every 2 years there's an election, and people come and people go. So if we have that person, it's their job to do that, and they don't have to worry about running for election and who they're taking off and who they're not taking off.
They bridge the constant gap.
Right.
all the time.
It's constant, so then a working relationship is built, established, and you go forward that way. So, you know, I like 4 divisions of the volunteer and the paid. So, you know, so one station has the ambulance, which, you know, where the paid people are. So they run that, and then they run fire apparatus also, because you really, it's like I said, you can't diminish the services. And you can't, you know, I know that's an offering to run one truck, well, geez, you know, and the ambulance, you still got two pieces of apparatus, and you go into a fire, and there is an ambulance coming if it's a big fire. And, you know, we need to amend the contracts, they have not been looked at. They were done 10 years ago?
11.
Oh,
11.
no, Pat Mazuski.
But I think they were
Was it-
signed in
no,
2011.
It was done with Christina.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in
2011.
Oh, they did the
Uh,
budget stuff, I'm sorry, the bills, but I know, you're right.
Those are much older revisions, but.
Yeah.
Stuart?
So are we picking our favorite out of the bunch here, or?
Pick
I heard
a couple if you
anything
want
you
to.
think can work.
A theoretical overview.
Doesn't have to be one. You know,
What tickles your fancy?
What do you,
I'll compromise in my own mind here. You know, number 4 makes people happy, which is not a big step up from where we are now. In terms of having the volunteer and paid in one of them separately, well, they kind of are now. So I'm not sure that's a huge improvement. In terms of separating fire and EMS, no, you're just fighting with another organization with goals.
Do we have someone you didn't like or like?
I'm trying to find one I have, well. I'm narrowing down the list here. You know, ultimately, a single organization solves all these problems, but somebody won't agree to it.
You two people dance.
Yes. Yeah. We don't have a partner, so.
you can pick anything you want.
You know, and I look at paid administrator and fire commission is very similar. As I mentioned at the last meeting, Andover and Bolton both have fire commissions.
Yeah.
They're free, they don't cost anything. They have month-to-month responsibilities to, and I don't know what level of authority they have, but they have month-to-month responsibilities of overseeing what's going on in town. And those are towns with only one fire department. But they have a volunteer fire commission that costs nothing, that they can dedicate month after month to doing that, short of the Board of Finance, where you meet typically once a year, present your budget, and they don't give you a second thought till the following year.
Stuart, in those towns, are they appointed or elected? You know?
I do not know.
If they're appointed or elected?
I
believe they run for office.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
they're elected?
I know their minutes are online if you want to look at
I just wanted.
what they do.
So are you picking one of those?
Anything, Stuart, pick something.
I'm just trying to.
What's a yes for
review.
Stuart? What's a, yes, it could
I mean,
potentially work.
it's fine if you want to pick all 7.
There you go.
Say yes.
I don't know, I aim for 4 and 6 and do whatever 7 has to do to cover that. You could have a fire commission that, and, you know, similar to how we're meeting now, that, and I hope our dialogue continues past this particular goal that we're working on now for, you know, there's been times for, 6 months to a year, we don't have a single conversation between the 2 departments. And that's not a good thing either, even if we kept the status quo. So if you had the fire commission that would at least facilitate ongoing communication, and in terms of the 2 divisions, at least to put in a little more concrete what the goals are. You know, and there's still two departments, you're still king of your kingdom, and you can decide what goes on in your kingdom. And, you know, and that includes responses. If you choose to change it, so be it.
Trevor, you're up.
Link in the House of Representatives, you have 30 seconds, he yielded to you.
So with a single organization, I look at it more as a combination model, because I've been involved with one for 5 years, and it works. You have career staff that cover during the day, and you have volunteers that supplement 24/7. And there's other combination models in east of the river that have been known to work. And I agree, we have to retain volunteers, and I think we have to come to a reasonable decision how we're gonna move forward and appease people, but at the same time, I can't wrap my head around, if you like doing it, it shouldn't matter whether you're career or volunteer, or we all show up to deliver the same service to the public, whether, doesn't matter what color trucks you have, what your station number is, at the end of the day, it's about the public service delivery.
So it's 3, you pick 3.
3, I look at it as a combination model.
Yep.
Which is I kind of look at 4 of the same thing.
Yeah, more or less. I can lean towards the paid administrator or fire commission. I think you need somebody from the town that has the skin in the game to hold each fire chief accountable, whether it's Alex and Tom or whoever takes over after that. And make sure you have the same SOPs, your training's up to par, you're following the NFPA requirements, and you're not freelancing. There's organization within each department and on the fire ground.
You should talk more.
Takes me a while to get warmed up.
All right.
Want to put that in the contract? We'll put that in the contract.
In no particular order, I'll go back and explain them, 5, 6, 7. Number 3, I think would probably deliver the ultimate solution for a efficient delivery of service. However, I'm willing to concede it's not feasible at this time. Maybe in time, maybe after one of these other things are possibly implemented, that it'll emerge. That's probably might be the best thing to do. If it's not the best thing to do, then perhaps so what? You leave it the way it is. Number 1, from a priority perspective, number 1 is to amend the contracts. That shouldn't. I'll offer my opinion on it. Maybe amend, take it out. I think a thorough review of the contracts and a renegotiation with the organizations is in order. That's the first thing, because there's probably some antiquated information in there. There's probably some things that can be put back in there. That's the first thing. That can be done relatively, generally, easily.
Generally,
Generally,
Make it relatively
there shouldn't be too much
generally
pain with that, but it's just updating, but you gotta open the contract. I mean, without trying to smoke anybody here, I mean, has the board of selectmen and every member of the board of finance look at the contract between the fire departments in the town? Probably not. So, they may well look at that.
I think it's something to set at the table, I do want to say.
I hadn't looked at it.
So, that's
Did you know there was one?
No.
From a priority perspective, I think that the fire commission
Difficult beast.
would be a decent,
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
fire commission
Okay.
would be a decent solution. Stuart hit the nail on the head, it's free. You would probably get people to volunteer to be on that commission. Again, just like the administrator, which would be my third priority. It doesn't, you can mold it in by ordinance any way you want. It doesn't have to be a strong commission. You know, if you don't want it to be, it can be advisory, you can do all types of things. However, they can be a clearinghouse / facilitator between the organizations if need be. They can also be a group that, you know, one of the things that we labor over every year is budget development. And then facing the scrutiny of going to the Board of Finance, why you spend this, why you spend that, how come you have 5,000 versus a year and the other department has 1,000? Well, now you have a commission, a single person, a chairperson, they go to the Board of Finance. You present your budget to the commission, they go champion your cause, they go all the meetings for the next 2 months and deal with it. And again, going back to the financial perspective, it's free. I think you would find people that would probably do that. And then the third one is the paid administrator, paid facilitator, administrator, find another synonym. The other ones, to me, I think are, I've been on record enough that they're, I think some of them are a little bit far-fetched. I think that they actually may damage the delivery of service that people enjoy today. And again, the number 3, while I personally think that that is the ultimate solution, you know, maybe the time just isn't right to come out of the gate that strong with something like that if it's going to cause that much agita and potentially make things worse before they get better. So I think 5, 6, and 7, or 5 and 6, I should say, would be a decent halfway point that, if looked at objectively by both departments, I think could actually turn into a positive thing for us, and not, we shouldn't look at the negative side of it. I think it could be a positive thing for us and actually relieve some of the administrative tasks that we labor over. It will allow us to focus on other more important things.
I'm gonna be much quicker than 10. 3, I think would be my, what I'd like to overall see. I think there's a way to get there. I don't have all of the answers, but I think there's a way to do it that satisfies what the volunteers want and keeping the same level of service that we're doing now. Other than that, 5 and 6, 6 because of the fire commission, because of it being free. I think it'll do what we need it to do. I think it'll be that facilitator. The commission can be a facilitator for us. And then 7, amend the contracts. The other options, I'm not. 2 and 4. 4 I see as being the same as 2, and you're still causing a separation between the two. If anything, we need to bring it closer and not separate it. That's what I have.
Did you say yes for 5 too, Al?
Yes.
I'm going to take a chairman's option to go last. Go
Oh,
ahead,
you are?
Tom.
I thought you were next. All right, I'm agreeing that the contract needs amendments, so that is a yes. As far as 5 and 6 go, I think from what I'm hearing, the fire commission would take precedence, or would, you know, I'd rather see that than paid administrator, only if there was going to remain 2 departments. I think that if there's one department, I think, like Alex, I'm optimistic that one department can happen. I think I'm optimistic that it should happen. But again, the only way I really see it from happening is number 4. Number 3 is one single organization, and that may happen in time, like Tyler was saying, that you start with number 4, you separate, and again, you know, you said something before about paid people jumping in a fire truck. I think Stuart was saying that jumping in a fire truck and the ambulance stays there. That goes back to what I've said before. If there is one fire truck and one ambulance and 2 paid people, and say there's a fire, both pieces of apparatus need to be at that fire. I mean, instead of 2 guys jumping in the fire truck and leaving the ambulance, I mean, to me that's ridiculous. An ambulance should be at every single call we have. That's my opinion. So, again, number 4 is kind of the one that I think would be the best fit for this town, and then it can adapt. I mean, if it's not working, you change things over time, as, you know, things always do. Everything's not, you know, okay, it's going to be separated and there's going to be one fire truck and one ambulance for paid staff and that's going to be it forever. That's not the case. I mean, we got to start trial and error on these things, and like I said, I see that happening, or see that working with trial and error. And again, the fire commission, if it's going to remain and we decide that, you know, the best thing to do is remain 2 separate departments, fine, amend the contract. But I think, again, I'll just have to say it again, that a town this size, I think if one fire department was put together, we could work with amending the contracts and get by with running the town. I don't think there's operationally a lot of issues. I think it's mostly administrative issues. And you guys say that, you know, it takes two to dance. I mean, we're here to dance, we're here to jump in this thing with you guys. It's just, you know,
Dance card is full.
we gotta come up with a song list, I guess, if you wanna use that analogy, you know, we gotta come up with some kind of way to get in it together and do it. As opposed to, I hear a lot of you guys say, let's just do it, we'd be happy to jump in and consolidate tomorrow, but, okay, I mean, that means a lot of different things, like our budget's a democracy, we vote on things over a certain dollar amount. You know, I don't know how you guys
Sure,
do it, and, you know, how many people are involved in your votes, and, you know, but we have a whole group of people that do that, and if we want to put together a blueprint that says this is how we do it, and these are the members that'll do it, I think we can do that and take it back to each department. So, I'll let,
Did you say yes on fire commission, on all those little gray on it?
yes on fire commission if it's gonna be, if we decide it's gonna remain two departments. I think that would help. It was a free fire commission. I don't think the town can afford or wants to pay for any paid positions, because the way I see a paid position, whether it starts off part-time temporary, a lot of guys know that these part-time temporaries turn into, okay, well, I need more of this, I need more of that. It's not gonna be done in this amount of time. Now you're snowballing from part-time temporary to more like a full-time permanent. And that's what again, if the town thinks that's the best route to go and they want to pay it full-time, you gotta just take that into consideration. That's a possibility, a strong possibility. And you start off with paid anything.
4 and 7. We may have a different idea of what 4 means amongst us, but
What does it mean to you?
I envision when I look at that, say the paid people down at Station 213 for the piece of apparatus and the ambulance, they run out of there. One department, 2 divisions. One chief, one department,
Okay.
but they're a separate paid division. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
That makes
Did
sense
you
from
mean
what,
the South Station, or did you have a full file of the North Station, calling it 230?
No, I meant, that's just in my head, Tyler. That doesn't,
Which one?
Like, cram those guys in the South Station?
the South Station. Just because it would be more,
That's fine.
it doesn't mean that's what it would be, I'm just saying what's in my head.
And again, all these things, I mean, if we were to consider these, they're work in progress. I mean, you know, you change, you grow, you adapt, you gotta get to a point where we gotta come up with a plan, a blueprint, and an agreement.
I mean, people come and go. People's opinions come and go. People's levels of activity come and go. Presidents, chiefs, lieutenants, they all come and go. Well, what we need to hopefully get to is some level of consistency that carries through as there's changes in personnel, and that's the ideal.
all right, as chairman, I'm going last, sorry. I too see the ultimate goal as being number 3. I don't think you can jump right in there. I think you're gonna have to take steps to get there, and I think if we just go right there, we're in problem. I think our priority, like Tyler said, is to amend the contracts, go over those. That's the easiest first step, that's
Low-hanging
where we
fruit.
start.
Low-hanging fruit.
That's right, low-hanging fruit. And then the number 4, the 2 divisions, volunteer and paid. I had a conversation with one of you all that paid people and volunteers are very different, and they need to be managed very differently. And that may be where the supervision differences come in, so you'd have one person that's watching those, or supervising the paid, one person supervising the volunteers, so that they could be supervised differently. So I don't see that as cutting out. And then when it comes down to being between a paid administrator and a fire commission, I'm leaning towards the paid administrator, primarily because that makes them more beholden to the Board of Selectmen. If the Board of Selectmen doesn't like the job they're doing, they're gone. We can find a new one. The fire commission I think is too independent of the town and the elected positions. So that's why I prefer paid administrator. All right, so I think we finished that.
Did you pick 4 or not?
I did pick 4.
I heard 3, 7, 4, and 5.
3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and 7. I can live with 6 if I can't get 5, but I prefer 5. All right. So, let's move onwards because the time grows late. Is there anything that anybody would like to see as a next step?
Before we get that far,
All right,
can we come to agreement that we can remove number 2 after hearing everybody's opinions? Or do you want to wait till another meeting?
Maybe it would be good, Trevor, to wait till
Okay.
our other heavy hitters are here. Just, you know what I mean? Just like,
Understandable.
like the chief said, just to
mhm.
get everybody's temperature. And then maybe we can ask, do the same thing, if they're at a point where they could chime in on the rest, which ones, you know. I mean,
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right, so is there anything that anybody would like to add to next time's agenda? Or next step?
Are you gonna review this again when there's?
I would like to review this again when there's more people here, and now that we've had an airing of this being the season of Festivus, we've aired our grievances, and so now that we are beginning to, I thought that tonight was the best night for understanding what each of us was thinking. I really do. I could be wrong on that, but that's my gut feeling. So I think one of the next steps should be for you guys that are here to bring this back to your departments and let them know what we've discussed and see if there's anything that's just out there.
The only issue is
The only thing I ask is that we keep what Tyler said in mind, is that we have some reason and some, not pure emotion and vitriol behind the answer. We have a reason, all right? I don't care how good the reason.
You may not like the reason.
I don't care how good the reason is even.
But-
I just,
Yeah.
because I hate you isn't a good reason, all right?
Can I put in some 2 cents as far
Sure.
as your next steps and next meetings? We set you set a schedule for yourselves and a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And we're up against a budget season, which many members of this committee are members of those various boards, and we're looking at selectmen's meetings, board of finance meetings, CIP meetings, that it's possible you may not be able to keep 2 meetings a month for the next couple of months.
Right, in fact, I
Maybe
was,
it's unrealistic, because CIP has not set their meetings, and I can tell you that there are 3 people sitting here who, 4, when we add up Mike, who have to be at those CIP meetings, and they very well could be Wednesdays, because they're
That's about the only day of the week that.
they're about the only days it's not taken up by some other meetings. So I don't want you to feel discouraged if you have to maybe put some things off, but.
I had already started looking through the calendar, and I was thinking that the 8th is too soon, because that's before you guys meet again. So I was gonna.
If you want this to brought to the
I mean, we don't meet for a long time.
Right.
now.
So,
I mean, it's good, I hear what you're saying, it's good to keep it up, but January,
you
February.
don't
may
meet
be
until like the
really
28th,
unrealistic
right?
The 4th Tuesday.
To have a full table.
And Pete, at some point, do you expect to, well, I think we should. We're gonna have some type of executive summary that you're gonna present to, findings that you present to the board of selectmen, is that the
Yes.
idea?
That would be my,
Pete came to the Board of Selectmen last night, and asked for an update. There wasn't really much to
Yeah.
update on as far as, which is why I planned for it, because I attend these meetings, to update when there is some progress. We're really just getting into it, but I think it's important that
I mean,
something
At
official
some
from
point,
the
this is
committee
why
come
we're
back.
formed, this is what we came up with, these are the
Yes.
ideas,
Yes.
this is where we're at.
Mhm.
Even if you may not have unanimous consent that this is what
Right.
you should do, you have majority, that's what we think we should happen.
And maybe decide, pick a timeline for when that will be. Along the way, these are the points in which you're going to update get progress, and then
Yep.
the Board of Selectmen won't be wondering what's happening, but we'll know once a quarter, we'll get an update and kind of where you're at. Whatever this committee believes is a realistic timeline to reach for.
Yeah, and I think our timeline was 14 months to present something to
Right.
memberships,
Right.
departments. And then I was anticipating after that, get the feedback and present to.
But there
like Donna
should be
said.
some status points along the way, so that we know kind of where we're going. So, as an advisory committee, give us that where
So
you're at.
CIP hasn't set their dates yet?
That is correct.
Well, there's been email trains going around of dates to pick, and the only one that's coming up is the 8th of January, which in theory is a emergency services night.
It's also very,
But CIP's got to get its ball rolling, so I think
Oh, I was looking at 8 AM instead of 8 PM, which is why. Yeah, I think that we're gonna need to cancel the 8th at the very least.
And if
And
they
then-
want, they don't have another meeting until the 28th, so either the 29th or the 5th of February?
it's not as though you filed regular
I-
meetings with the town clerk.
Right, I'd like to go to the 29th because of when their meeting is. And if,
Do you think it's that crucial?
What's that?
Of our meeting is, as far as this right now?
Well, I mean, if we can orchestrate the answers to the questions prior to that,
Okay.
you know, like, a lot of people don't, you know, some people show up on Tuesday, some people don't, so I mean, we could certainly, you know, try
We're
and
still
get-
in an early.
Mhm.
He normally updates everybody in general what's going on.
all right,
I
well,
would-
I think we
I
gotta
would
cancel
suggest wait and
the
see
8th
what some of these
because,
meetings hold out and play out, and then you
Yeah.
can
all right,
cancel or add once you know what meetings are set in stone, nothing is set yet.
right. The 8th is,
It's not.
do we have a meeting on the 8th for CIP?
It's not set yet.
Well,
Nothing is
that's
set.
the only opening, I think,
Well,
between selectmen and board of finance and the board of ed.
I mean, let's talk about it, because if, the first meeting is simply setting dates for CIP.
Setting
correct?
dates and reviewing ongoing projects.
Well, then you can't review them before January 3rd, because they're not due until January 3rd, so you couldn't.
No, reviewing ongoing projects, ones that haven't been
The ones
submitted
that-
yet. What's going on this year,
Progress.
Right.
in terms of did you buy this, did you buy that, just to get that out of the way. So that should be basically a report from Donna as to what projects are
So
in the
you
same
could
days.
realistically do that January 2nd, I know I said I was not available, but it could happen. I could either call into that meeting or Donna will update you, and I can certainly, if you're looking for availability, share that, so that it doesn't put that off, so that we can have answers for other groups.
All right, why don't we just leave the meetings the way they are for right now, and then we'll wait to hear from CIP, and then
Yeah.
start scheduling some meetings, and I will start an email chain to make sure everybody's updated. How's that?
Do you have public comment at the end too?
Could have all-
I don't, but I can, and I have no correspondence, and so under good and welfare, I will allow public comment.
What do you think, Jared? Based on what you heard tonight? And Mrs. Shore, you too.
The ultimate goal, as far as I'm concerned, is to preserve the volunteer and the volunteer response. We had this idea of a commission several years back. That didn't fly. What I'm concerned is, if there were a commission or an administrator who he was answering to, and who was in a position to pressure him to consider certain moves and
Sure.
certain decisions. This is what I'm concerned with.
Who's your master?
If we, yeah, if we did have an administrator of sorts, or a facilitator, whatever term you want, that would be my concern. I would prefer that he was voluntary, a volunteer to do it. And I don't know how to ensure that he wasn't swayed in one way or the other, that dissuaded. I still would prefer to see the concept of the volunteer fire department and a separate ambulance corps, as they do in so many towns. A few of the towns that were mentioned today are all strictly volunteer, the ones that we're combining. They weren't combining with, that I know of, with paid people. Paid people and volunteers is a very bad mixture. It's like oil and water. I was a union steward for 20 plus years, and I've seen the results, and it's not good. And I really don't want to see that type of deterioration occur to our departments as they stand. I see some progress. I see some ideas formulating, and I'm keeping an open mind on what has been established today, been discussed today. But I'm a little leery.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was the deterioration with you being a union steward? Did you have people that come in that were non-union people, or you had people come in and volunteer?
Well, I was a union steward for the IBEW.
Yeah.
The story, I'll tell it again. I was the chief steward where I worked, and I would go to the AFL-CIO meetings.
Okay, you told that story.
You
remember that.
understand it?
Yeah, I understand that story, but
Yeah.
that, how long ago was that?
15, yeah, at least 15 years ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
And that was addressed briefly, I mean,
but you know what, we don't have that issue here. You know, the union doesn't come in and beat anybody over the head and say, you know, get rid of these volunteers. The four people that are represented by the union, that's for their job security, to negotiate their benefits and their contract. And the union goes away. The chief, myself as president, we have an understanding with the union, and everybody comes in and does their job. We haven't had a union hearing, nobody's been written up. And it's, you know, I think some of the people probably have personality issues. They don't like the guys that are paid guys. Well, so what? Does everybody sing Kumbaya up at Willington Hill? Does everybody love everybody? Does it? I mean, seriously, you know, we have personality issues within a department. That's human nature, okay? And the union is not affecting anything whatsoever in our operation.
It's not a consideration for us as far as.
It's not. It's-
I just want to make one point. Regardless of how we do this, if we separate the paid versus volunteer, regardless, they still have to go to every call together, paid and volunteer. We don't have a choice in that matter. That's where I'm having a hard time of saying I'm okay with splitting them, because they go to every call together, regardless. And we do that now. We're going to be doing that in 10 years, in my mind. We don't have a choice in that matter. We need the personnel. And we can't, I guess that's where I'm having an issue of it, is we work together now every single day. Paid versus volunteer on every call. That's why I'm having a problem trying to divide it. And we're all there for the exact same reason. Jerry, because you're here, I'll use you. You go to calls because you like helping the residents of the town of Willington. It's the exact same reason I go to calls. That's where I'm having a hard time of grasping this separation.
the old adage of the camel's nose getting into the tent is perhaps one of the poignant comments made once here in these meetings. It's where you've really got to be careful with union employees versus volunteers. If any other people are, and it will probably occur, they'll be hired on. they won't be volunteers or union people, they'll have no choice.
Right.
It's a closed shop.
Only the full-timers.
Only full-time
Just so you
staff.
know that, only the
4
full-time
people.
guys. That's it.
More people.
No, the part-time or per diem people are members of the, just full-time.
And certainly the people who work the overnight shift.
No.
They're
So,
not going to be, the contract
Jerry,
is
you were
just
in the
for those
union,
4
right?
people.
Yes.
Well, you're supposed to be an advocate.
Oh.
You're going the wrong way, Jerry. You're going the wrong way.
He said you guys are bad.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something, union members,
Careful now.
I hope you're all Christians.
Careful.
It wasn't enough for them that Christ died and was crucified on a cross. They wanted all their union stewards to do it for him also. Okay, now let me tell you what, I have a very bad taste in my mouth with some of the experiences I had in the union. I was glad I was there to be the ombudsman for the 0.000% of the people who were really done wrong. And, but all the other, God almighty, was horrible. It's just the stupidest stuff.
I will say, knock on wood, luckily we don't have those issues.
Well, I'm glad.
And I can speak on behalf of a small shop as well. We, in Tala, we work hand in hand with the volunteers. They come out during the day, we work hand in hand. There's no union bashing, there's no volunteer bashing. Every department across the state, you have good eggs and bad eggs.
It can coexist effectively if managed properly.
all right, I'm gonna break in here because, well, there's that, but I also wanna say something. And this side of the table took over from me. I had two things, is one, when that was brought up before, I talked to a union member in another town, and they said that the, what is it, IAFF has changed their view dramatically on volunteers over the years. So that's not, I understand where you're coming from, I heard your story, and I have no doubt about that, having survived my union. But I think that maybe they may have smelled the roses too and realized that they need volunteers as well. The other question I had was, you said that the commission had failed, and if
No,
if you
it failed to pass.
it failed to pass. If that failed to pass the departments, or it failed to pass the town?
We
or-
went to a town.
The town? Okay, that was my question, so now you're up.
Yeah,
Good.
it's a referendum.
No,
Oh, motion to adjourn.
yeah, now you're up.
Second.
So moved.
Hey,